filmed your parts, did you then sit and watch the shows as it aired, or are you the types of actors who do the work and they're so busy you never get to see yourself?
When I did Star Trek, I used to watch the shows, and I used to do, when I did Lost in Space, I watched all the shows too. That was like a family, it really was.
Same with me, and I thought it was over after I did Pike, and all of a sudden Gene says, "I want you to stay and be normal." I said, "What do you mean? You're gonna play the navigator on the next," I said, "helmsman on the next show." I said, "What? Yeah, you won't have this, your hair will be dark, and you'll look like you're normal." I said, "Okay, I'll do that."
So, sitting in your living room, watching the show air, did you have any sense this was going to last, this was going to become a really good television series? Or was it, were you unsure of its future?
I was totally unsure of this future. I know I would go to work, and all I cared about was working the next day. At the time, I just wanted to work. And you'd go in and do a show, and then when you were done, you left, and you went and did another show, and you didn't think about it again. It was like over with. It was done. And I had, I knew Star Trek was moving on. I knew that they were doing other episodes and different shows. Because I tried to do the one that Kate Mulgrew was the captain of.
Voyager.
Right, Voyager. I wanted to coordinate Voyager, and the executive producer and one of the producers had done Kate Mulgrew, and he knew that that I had done Kate Mulgrew and that I doubled Kate. Most of the time I was doubling Kate, I was driving in a car because she's taller than I am. But so they had hired Dennis Matalone to do the show, and Dennis and I were good friends, and I said, "Well, I want to double Kate," and he went, "Sandy, she's 5'4". You're barely 5 feet tall." And I went, "I know," and he said, so I ended up not being able to double her, and it was funny. We actually, the two of us, got to be really good friends and stay that way. But I kind of, I watched I watched Voyager, and then I kind of didn't watch and didn't pay much attention to Star Trek because I was working a lot. And then was it the 50th anniversary, Richard Arnold, who was Gene Roddenberry's assistant, called me and said, "So I want you to sign some baseball cards, and would you like to do the show in Vegas?" And I said, "What show in Vegas? What are you talking about?" He said, "Oh, we have a Star Trek convention, and you'd be perfect." And I went, "Fine, I don't even know what do I do?" And he said, "No, you'll sign autographs, you'll be fine." Well, I went to the Star Trek convention in Vegas. That was the first one I'd gone to, and I gotta tell you guys, I was blown away. I had never in my life thought that Star Trek was anything like that, and was in awe watching everybody in your costumes. And I mean, you guys, you made, I can't even explain how incredible that show was, and watching all the people dressed as Star Trek and talking to me. They knew more about Star Trek and my character than I remembered.
Yeah, and it's true, because after I got off the show and I thought, wow, I'm in this wheelchair and all this and everything, and then a friend called me and they had seen the first show with Menagerie, Menagerie, and I said, "Yeah, there's a part 1 and part 2, and they said, "It's the only one Gene ever did, part 1 and part 2. And I thought, so this is really going to go somewhere, because why would he do 1 hour and then another hour on a show? And he knew about the longevity of the show. He just knew, he did. And later when I met him and went up to his house one time, he just said, "You got to keep it real." That's what I learned on doing all these shows, and keep it real, especially if it's sci-fi. Don't let it be unreal. Keep it real. And that's what Gene always said.
When did you catch on to the fact that Star Trek was a phenomenon? Was it, 70s with the early conventions, or later, like Sandy?
It's funny, I didn't even know about the conventions, and I moved over to Arizona, and I'm driving up the main street in Phoenix, and all of a sudden I see this hand-painted sign, Star Trek, the new shows, and all of a sudden I pull over and I walk in, and everybody's got handmade costumes. All the signs are all handmade, and they were saying, "This is gonna go, this is gonna go. Oh, you wanna be in on this?" And I said, "Well, I played the first captain." No, hold on. And they had all these fake costumes they made with little pins pinned on there. And I thought, if this is the energy that is going to go around the country, like these people made me convinced that this is going to be big. And it was.
So